Hey, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be creating the question. So this is that function that we created, and this kicks off the creation of the question, also with the next button. So it's going to create the next question as well. And then what we're doing is we're hiding that, and we're going to also hide that right off the bat as well. And we're going to only show that when we are ready for the player to move on to the next question. So we're going to do some hiding and showing of that. So first, let's take a look, and we're going to update the message content so we can say what the value is. And so we have our message object and text content. So this is always important when you are creating interactions for users. You got to tell them what's going on. So we're going to mention that question number. And because we do have all of these values, we know how many questions are, and we know which question the user's on. So this is the question the user's on. So right now they're on 0, but it's actually because arrays are 0 based, they're actually going to be on 1. So let's place that one in, but we're going to add. So we've got them question number, and this is the question that they're currently on. And this will read number 1 because this is the first question that they're on. So question is 0, but we could also update that as well. We could set that to number 1 and have them on first question. And also they need to know how many questions are out of. And we've got our game total, which is the total number of questions that are available. So once we load the data, we can see question number 1 out of 3. So that's the message for the user. We also want to take output and clear any HTML that might currently be within the page. So those are just some double quotes, and that's going to clear all of that content out. So that test content, we don't actually even need to have it there right in the beginning. We also might want to take a look at what we have contained within the game object. So this is that global object that's tracking all of the game information. So you see we've got the total, the score, and we've got an array which contains all of the data that we want to use. And we also want to randomize. So we've got the question data, and we've got the content that's contained within the array. And in order to output that content, let's simplify this and select that array, and we're going to select it according to whatever the game value is. So setting up a variable. And so this is going to contain all of the information that we need in order to construct it. So getting from the game array, and then using that game value, we can output in queue all of the data that we need. So this is all of the content that's related to this particular question. So whatever question we're on, we see we've got the question, what color is the sky? So if we want to get the question, we can do .question. If we want to see the answer, we can do .answer for that object value. And then we also have the array of content. So these are all the different options that are available to the user. So let's make some updates to and create some elements for the page. So first, let's create our main object. So this is where all of the main content will go, and using document and create element. And the element that we want to create is a div. So we did show you how we can create these elements here, and we could have done this in JavaScript as well, where we create the element. And we are going to be creating a few different elements, so there is enough practice within this section for that. So creating an element, and this is just a regular div, and then main text content, and within the main text content, we're going to put the question. So this is within the queue object, and then we're going to take that output object. So this is the main output area, and append child, and the child that we're going to append is main. So this should output the question whenever it loads. So there we've got the question, what color is the sky? So we've got our question there, and we also need to show some of the options. So let's do queue opt. So this was the array with all of the questions, and we can use for each for this to loop through the array and get all of the content from the array. I'm going to use L again, and that's going to represent each one of the items that are available within the array. And if you want to see what's going to get output, you can always console log that out. So you can see as we loop through, so these are all of the options that are being output. So blue, green, purple, pink, and yellow. So we're ready to create an element. And in this case, let's create a span. And using same format where we're using document create element and creating a span. And then within the span, let's load our text content, and the text content is going to be L, and it's just going to simply be the content of L. And then we'll take our output and do append child, and we're going to append the span to the output. So when we save that, we get what color is the sky, and there's all of our options. And of course, we're going to have to play with some styling to make it look nice. And usually within the elements, so all the elements are actually objects, so you can add additional values as needed. So these are going to be hidden values, so you're not actually going to be able to see them, but you can pick them up. So if we want to house the answer in there, we can do Q answer, because we have access to that object right now. As well, you won't see it being represented on the page, but you're able to pick it up because it's attached to that object, that element object. So you can apply hidden content to those elements. You can also add event listeners. So adding an event listener, we're going to listen for a click on that element. And then whenever it gets clicked, it's going to invoke a function called checker. Now let's create that function. So we're looping through, we're adding all of that content in, and this is all contained within that main function there that we've got. We're creating the question, creating another function, and this is picking up that event object. So there's a few ways that you can get the answer back, and I'll console log out that event target, as well as console log this. So there's going to be a number of ways to do that. So once we get all of this content, let me clear that. And if I click any one of these, you're going to see that we're able to pull back that element. And once we select the element, the answer is hidden. So either one of those will provide the answer for us. So any one of them that we're going to click right now, it's going to tell us what the answer is. And the answer is blue. So either way that you select it, you can use the eTarget answer or this answer. And this is referring to the object value of ANS that we set here. And we got the Q answer value as we were looping through the elements. And this was provided when we selected that main question object here under Q. So when we go to Q, we got the game array. So this is coming from the global array of game data, and we're selecting the particular item using the index value of game val. So go ahead, try this one out, and I know this has been a fairly long lesson, but the objective here is to get the data, and this is globally stored under the game object. So you can select it. You don't have to pass anything into the create question function, and pick up that information from the global object game object, and then construct your visible part for the page. And of course, we're going to apply some styling later on as well. And you're going to be ready to move on to the next lesson, where we're going to continue to build out and update the checker to check to see if the answer is right or wrong, and add that functionality in that we're going to be keeping score and telling the user whether they answered it correctly or incorrectly. So that is all still yet to come.